This video was brought to you by my beautiful Patreon community and my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much. Hello boys and girls, are you ready for another installment of JW Broadcasting?
JW Broadcasting.
In this episode, we're going to learn why Jehovah loves disadvantaged people. And we're going to watch a new Bible movie which shows us why we should never question the governing body. Yeah, it's about to get culty. You know, as always, we're doing the cringe challenge, so if you cringe, you lose. And when you cringe, let me know the exact moment you lost it. Are you ready? Let's get into it. First, we have a talk by the newest addition to the governing body, Jeffrey Winder, who along with his buddy, Gag Flegel, have always creeped me out quite a bit.
We love you.
His talk focuses on how Jehovah sustains us during difficult times, which is ironic because a big portion of the problems Jehovah's Witnesses endure are actually caused by their own religion. You know, the shame, the guilt, the financial struggles. But enough from me, let's hear it from you, Jeff.
Do you ever feel disadvantaged? Do you feel that perhaps because of unfavorable circumstances over which you have no control, you just don't have a fair chance in life? Maybe you feel that in the race of life, others seem to be able to run freely, but you have to run with a crutch. In this program, we're going to talk about a very endearing aspect of Jehovah's personality, his loving care for the disadvantaged. We'll delve into his feelings for such ones, his respect for them, and his long history of caring for them.
Ooh, alright guys, open up your Bibles and turn with me to Leviticus 21:18.
Jehovah continued to speak to Moses, saying, "Tell Aaron, no man of your offspring throughout their generations who has a defect may approach to present the bread of his God. If there is any man who has a defect, he may not approach. A man who is blind, or lame, or has a disfigured face, or one limb too long, a man with a fractured foot, or a fractured hand, a hunchback, or a dwarf, or a man with an eye defect, or eczema, or a ringworm, or damaged testicles. No man of the offspring of Aaron the priest who has a defect may approach to present Jehovah's offerings made by fire. Because he has a defect, he may not approach to present the bread of his God."
See how wise Jehovah is?
Are we talking about the same Jehovah, Jeff? The one who didn't think little people were worthy of approaching him in the temple? The one who didn't allow castrated men or Moabites or children born out of wedlock to even worship him? Mind you, most of these people were born this way or made this way against their will.
Unfavorable circumstances
over which you have no control.
And God deemed them unworthy. And don't get me started on the slavery part. I don't know, Jeff. I don't think Jehovah cares all that much about the disadvantaged. Or at the very least, he picks and chooses which disadvantaged people he's gonna care about. Sorry, little people. Big J is just like modern Disney. He doesn't think you're worthy of approaching his presence.
Little enemy of God.
We'll also consider how Jehovah's care of the lowly ones draws us closer to him and how it can reassure you if you face disadvantages in your life. To begin with, who are the disadvantaged? When we speak of disadvantaged ones in this discussion, we're not talking about the inadequacies of the person, but rather of the unfortunate circumstances in life that one must contend with. Often a person inherits the situation through no fault of his own. Among such ones, the Bible specifically mentions widows, orphans, and foreign residents. As their protector, note how he views their care at Exodus 22:22 through 24.
"You must not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you afflict him at all, so that he cries out to me, I will unfailingly hear his outcry, and my anger will blaze, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives will become widows, and your children will be fatherless."
So Jehovah will respond to an injustice done to widows and orphans by creating more widows and orphans? What? Can't Big J find a way to carry out justice without the need of executions?
Regarding this verse, the Watchtower said, "Notice that Jehovah did not leave it up to the human judges in Israel to enforce this law. God himself would execute judgment upon anyone who took advantage of a defenseless child." This is how personally Jehovah takes the care of the lowly, disadvantaged ones. They become His responsibility. They come under His protection. Jehovah personally makes up for any disadvantage they may have.
Now, this might seem like an innocent message at first glance, but it's actually quite destructive. Let me explain. Watchtower constantly tells its followers to leave their problems in Jehovah's hands. Are you facing an injustice by a fellow worshiper? Leave it in Jehovah's hands. Are you being mistreated by the government? Leave it in Jehovah's hands. Are your elders acting like corrupt overlords? You guessed it, leave it in Jehovah's hands. He will fix things in His due time. But of course, leaving a problem in Jehovah's hands means doing nothing about it. So when a child is abused in the congregation and there's not two witnesses to the crime and the perpetrator doesn't confess, elders are encouraged to, I quote, leave the matter in Jehovah's hands, instead of, going to the police. This idea of leaving things in Jehovah's hands is just used to justify abuse and creates compliance among the members. Now Jeff is going to show us how Jehovah showed His mercy towards poor people.
Here's a second example of a law made to help the lowly ones. In this case, it was related to the sacrifices the Israelites were to make to Jehovah for the forgiveness of their sins. We know the importance of blood in regard to sacrifices to atone ones from sin. Leviticus 17:11 tells us that it is the blood that makes atonement. However, note the provision made for the very poor in Israel found at Leviticus 5:11.
Now if he cannot afford 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, he must bring as his offering for his sin 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour for a sin offering.
Regarding this, the Watchtower said, for the very poor, Jehovah chose to make an exception and allow a sin offering without blood. In Israel, poverty denied no one the blessing of atonement or the privilege of making peace with God.
Okay, so Jehovah showed His mercy towards poor people by making them waste their doves and flour in a ritual sacrifice instead of, just forgiving them. Wouldn't the poor Israelites need this flour more than Jehovah? What the hell does He need flour for?
Furthermore, the sins of the entire nation, including the poor, were covered by the blood of the animals offered to God on the annual Day of Atonement.
Wait, so if the sins of the entire nation of Israel were covered in the Day of Atonement, why did Jehovah ask for more blood sacrifices from a bunch of poor people? You already established that a poor person doesn't need to spill blood to be forgiven, so why in the world are we killing all these sheep and doves for? Wouldn't it be more compassionate to give these animals to the needy instead of just ritually sacrificing them in the temple?
Bah. That's good.
You see how silly it is to base our moral framework on some outdated Iron Age laws?
Further, we see His love and compassion in the laws He enacted to protect such ones in Israel.
Jeff mentions all these verses pointing to widows and orphans, saying Jehovah is super compassionate, and yeah, it's all well and nice, but of course he ignores all the other verses in the Mosaic Law, condoning the ownership of other people. My personal favorite is Exodus 21:20, where Jehovah tells the Israelites it's okay to beat your slave as long as they don't die in a day or two. Or how about Leviticus 25, where Israelites are allowed to take foreign people as slaves and even pass them off as property to their children. Even Israelites could sell themselves into slavery in order to pay off a debt. So much for Jehovah making Himself personally responsible for them. It seems that the God of the Old Testament cares a lot about widows and orphans, but He doesn't give a crap about slaves, Canaanites, castrated men, and little people. No wonder the governing body is so morally corrupt. They seem to be worshipping a psychopath.
Jehovah's love and care for the disadvantaged is in such stark contrast to the way such ones are often treated in the world. Sadly, the world often steps on the disadvantaged, taking more advantage of them because they can. Further, whom does the world praise and promote? Isn't it typically the beautiful, the rich, the talented, the funny, the charismatic? Whereas the common person, even more so the disadvantaged, often doesn't receive such favor.
What are you talking about, Jeff? Satan's world does a much better job of representing disadvantaged people more than you do. Have you not heard of the Paralympics? On the other hand, the only times you use people with disabilities in your propaganda is when you want to guilt your followers into doing more.
There's a brother named Joseph. This brother can see, but he cannot walk. And me, I can walk, but cannot see. I'll hold his wheelchair and push while he directs it. This has helped us to meet many of our Bible students. Before now, we were few that went out in the field as pioneers. But now we are many. This shows that the example has helped other people, because when they see someone who cannot walk and someone who cannot see are pioneering, they conclude that they can pioneer too.
Watchtower loves to exploit disabled people, and they've been doing it for decades.
By contrast, Jehovah is on the lookout for the lowly ones.
Yeah, he's on the lookout for the disadvantaged ones. Too bad he doesn't actually do anything to improve their situation. What a joke.
Have you seen Jehovah's care through a thoughtful word or timely practical help from one of your brothers or sisters in the congregation? That is Jehovah residing with you. You are not alone. Jehovah is reviving your heart. He has assumed responsibility for your care. He takes it personally. You are important to him. And we just love him for it, don't we?
Funny how Jehovah always seems to help us through other people. It's never him directly aiding us from the heaven. No, it's always just some kind actions from other human beings. It's almost like Jehovah doesn't actually exist.
Nothing will be missing in paradise. Nothing will be unfair. Every person will have every advantage. Praised be Jehovah God, the protector of the disadvantaged ones.
If it hasn't been made clear how ableist this religion actually is, let me remind you that the JW version of paradise has no room for disabilities, or autism, or people with Down syndrome, or homosexuals. All these are seen as imperfections, things that need to get rid of, instead of, features that make you unique. Now, if you are someone with a disability, would you want to live in this paradise? Let me know in the comments below.
Jehovah cared for the widows of the past, and today he's with his servants who experience a devastating loss. Let's see how Jehovah has been there for Court, a widower, as he deals with the pain of losing his wife.
Now we get an interview with this man who recently lost his wife, and of course Watchtower can't just let him grieve in peace. No, they gotta put him in front of a movie set and make him relive the most traumatic experience of losing his soulmate, to remind us that no matter what happens in our lives, we shouldn't neglect our spiritual routine, aka our free servitude to the religion.
Miriam and I had been able to experience many blessings from Jehovah. Able to go on different assignments with Paraguay, Nigeria, Zambia, and then we packed up all of our belongings from home, took up everything in our life and drove across the United States from California to Patterson, and within a couple of months she was diagnosed with ALS. We were crushed. So sticking with the goal of pioneering helped me to get moving, and then helped me to also want to try and reach out for other goals, which is going back to do temporary work at Bethel. It's a privilege to be able to go to Bethel, and every day you're working for Jehovah. It was nice to be able to be with the friends. They were always so very, very encouraging, and I know that working with them and working on a theocratic project helped to motivate me to keep moving, to feel more positive, I serve as an elder in the congregation, so it's still trying to do my assignments and to try and be on shepherding visits, and been something to keep my mind not on myself, but on trying to help others. So I stick to my spiritual routine. But I also have a physical routine. I'll mountain bike 3-4 times a week, and to be in Jehovah's creation and be on the trails. It helps me to be able to have time to pray and to meditate, and I can talk to Jehovah and be able to express myself.
Oh, wow. So that's actually not terrible advice. Exercise is an excellent outlet for when we're going through a difficult time. But this seems to be the only sensible advice in the entire program.
Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Attaboy!
You may feel abandoned, but you're never alone. Jehovah sees you and loves you. Well, life can be hard through no fault of our own, but sometimes it's hard because of our own mistakes. How can we recover? Let's see how the faithful woman Miriam did it.
And now we get another Bible movie, this time with Miriam, the sister of Moses. In the last entries in the Bible series, we saw Abraham almost murdering his own son after hearing voices in his head.
Abraham. Abraham.
And we saw Rebecca abandon her family in order to marry a stranger.
Praise Jehovah.
I wonder what valuable lesson we're gonna learn today. Is she disfellowshipped?
Discipline can be painful. Appreciating it for what it truly is takes faith.
Moses.
Miriam. Oh, it's so good to see you. I've missed you.
The production quality is actually so good. Imagine if Watchtower used their talents on something useful.
Oh, Jehovah, highly exalted one. Please, don't give up on me.
I love seeing ancient Israelites using the 13th century word, Jehovah. Never gets old.
Praise Jehovah. Oh, hello.
Hello there.
Miriam was well known in the camp of Israel. She enjoyed a close relationship with her brothers, Moses and Aaron. During the slavery in Egypt and the exodus that followed, the people had grown to respect and love her.
Zipporah's back. Welcome home. Thank you.
Zipporah. Oh, welcome back.
Aaron.
Wait, this is like the whitest Zipporah I've ever seen. Isn't she supposed to be a foreigner from the desert?
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Maybe Miriam just got jealous of her skincare routine.
Perhaps at first, Miriam was pleased to have Zipporah back.
How is Zipporah settling in?
Well,
everyone seems excited. Don't you think?
But it seems that in time, she gave in to pride. she might have felt threatened,
Thank you, Sephora.
thinking that Zipporah would replace her as the most prominent woman in the nation.
The Bible doesn't comment on any of this, by the way. But you know Watchtower loves their fanfiction.
In any case, Miriam and Aaron engaged in negative talk.
But she's a Cushite.
Yeah, but she's his wife.
Yes? But she's not one of us. Who knows how she influences him?
At first, their talk focused on Zipporah, but it soon escalated into complaining about Moses himself.
Look, the people need leadership, and they trust us.
Miriam, Jehovah is leading the people.
You're not listening.
Miriam, wait.
We are suffering out here.
Maybe she's right.
Some have questioned my brother.
Something has to be done.
She says his Cushite wife is distracted.
I just don't understand what Moses is doing.
I'm tired of this. I think Jehovah's still with
We suffered in Egypt, and we're suffering
I
here.
hear Miriam is worried.
Maybe there's a better way.
Miriam says we shouldn't trust her.
Do you think Moses is still qualified to lead the nation?
Does Moses know what he's doing?
Maybe Jehovah wants us to do
Why
something.
do we have to listen to Moses?
I'm sure other people feel the
He
same.
should have stayed in Egypt.
And we're suffering here.
A lot of frustration.
Fight to lead the nation.
Why do we have to listen to Moses? I think Jehovah's still...
Let's turn back. Maybe Jehovah wants us to do something.
I'm worried about it.
Is it only by Moses that Jehovah has spoken? Has he not also spoken through us?
Go out, the three of you, to the tent of meeting.
Of course, Jehovah decides to wait till the last possible minute to speak from the sky, instead of speaking to Miriam as soon as she started gossiping. I think Jehovah just loves the drama, doesn't he?
Hear my words, please. It is not that way with my servant Moses. Face to face I speak to him, and the appearance of Jehovah is what he sees. Why, then, did you not fear to speak against my servant, against Moses?
I beg you, my Lord, please do not hold this sin against us. We have acted foolishly. Please do not let her continue like someone dead.
Wait, why isn't Aaron being punished too? He was also speaking against Moses. What in the double standard is this?
Oh God, please heal her. Please.
This is not magic, by the way.
Let her be quarantined for 7 days. Afterward, she may be brought back.
Oh, Jehovah, you are the Most High. You chose Moses to lead your people, and I disrespected him. And you... Please forgive me.
It's incredibly ironic that the Jehovah of the Old Testament, the same dude who condemned people to death for nutting on the ground and for picking up sticks on the Sabbath, was actually more compassionate with Miriam than Watchtower would have been. Jehovah had Miriam quarantined for 7 days, but Watchtower would have disfellowshipped her for a year for apostasy. She actually received a very slight reproof, all things considered.
Jehovah disciplines those he loves. Miriam accepted his discipline with faith. she was restored to God's favor and continued serving faithfully for decades.
Watchtower has long used these stories of people rebelling against Moses as cautionary tales for their followers. The governing body compares themselves to Moses, and they use this story to discourage anyone from speaking up against their authority.
They were saying, and apparently on an ongoing basis, is it only by Moses that Jehovah has spoken? Has he not also spoken through us? Now notice the next thought. And Jehovah was listening. And Jehovah didn't like what he heard, did he? And since murmurers never keep their complaints to themselves, it sows discontent in others. See, keep doing all things free from murmurings, and we'll prove to Jehovah that we're assets in his organization.
They even made this movie a couple of decades ago titled Respect Jehovah's Authority, where Korah and his buddies get swallowed up by the earth for speaking up against Moses. Oh, and the rebel priests are also burned alive. Maybe we should cover these movies one day because they've aged like fine wine. A very graphic reminder to never speak against the governing body, even if, unlike Moses, they haven't performed a single miracle. So in good old Watchtower fashion, what could have been a heartful story about God's forgiveness is turned into a reminder to obey. Man, all these Bible movies have sucked. But at least Miriam didn't try to sacrifice her firstborn son to Big J.
Abraham.
It's just a prank, bro.
Miriam humbly used the discipline to draw closer to God. If you've made a serious mistake, don't give up on yourself. Jehovah hasn't.
Being disciplined in the congregation actually increased my doubts in the religion, as I wondered if 4 old dudes should have this much control over my private life. I really don't see how any congregational discipline can draw someone closer to God. It's such a humiliating ritual, demoralizing even.
Injustice has grown out of control. How does it make you feel when it's in front of you? We'll learn from 2 young ones how they overcame inequality.
Remember how I told you JWs are encouraged to leave things in Jehovah's hands? Well, that applies to politics as well. JWs are not allowed to participate in politics because Jehovah is supposed to take care of all social injustices in his due time. Participating in politics is seen as putting your trust in man instead of the kingdom of God. Now let's see how a group of young ones applies this logic.
Why did the fight for equality initially appeal to you?
South Africa has a history of legalized racism, but just because the laws changed, it doesn't mean that what's been entrenched into the minds and hearts of people has also changed. I observed that people still had prejudices and they had ideas of what I should look like or talk like or where I should live, and it didn't feel like I was accepted anywhere.
I realized that people's needs were not taken care of. For example, their living conditions were not great. Some had water and some didn't. I wanted to help people. The time came when some political parties were saying that they could make a change. Now, in my heart, although I wouldn't say it, little by little, I started to support them.
Protests are so powerful everything's so loud and so moving. Different colors, cultures, boys, girls, everybody getting together to fight for the equality of others. I wanted to be part of making a change.
Okay, so these young people seem to be very aware of the injustices that still go on in post-apartheid South Africa, and this girl is aware of the importance of protests. Now, will they actually participate in the change they want to see, or will they leave matters in Jehovah's hands?
What changes did you notice in yourself?
Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, I could no longer go out freely. Yes, I did other things, but I also watched TV. When I watched TV, I noticed the things I used to see while I was preaching. The way women and children, the elderly, and the immigrants in this country were treated. It made me want to do something.
My school also had a protest. I knew that I couldn't protest as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So it was a bit frustrating. And I also felt bad about not getting involved, like I was a bystander. I looked like I didn't care, and I didn't want anyone to think that that was the case.
My parents noticed that I had become very focused on these things. Sometimes I would even ask why people were treated this way. They helped me in many ways. They used relevant JW broadcasting episodes. They also helped me through family worship.
The 2019 Love Never Fails convention was my favorite convention. The talk that stood out to me the most spoke about how love believes all things. If we love our brothers and sisters, that means that we believe that they have the best intentions towards us and towards each other. I realized that I have to let go of negative and critical thinking, and now I have such amazing friendships with a variety of people. But to see the love that they have for me and for each other, I get to show that and also receive it.
So focusing on international conventions and the superficial forms of love that are shown in those events somehow makes up for your political apathy? How do international conventions help the disadvantaged ones? They're just dress parties with cult songs.
The scripture that came to mind was Jeremiah 10:23, where it says that it does not belong to man to direct his step. Thinking about that scripture made me realize that people will not have success. They have never succeeded in the past, and even now, I see people fail. For me to show support, either by protesting or on social media, would be like painting a sinking ship. This world is sinking, and it won't do me any good to show support for it.
Holy cow! Imagine if the great social activists of our time, like Martin Luther King Jr., taught the same way. Nothing would get done. The situation would never improve. This old world is gonna be reset soon. It's gonna be destroyed soon. What's the point in fighting for change, for the rights of the marginalized? If everyone had that mentality, women would not be able to vote. They would still be stuck in the kitchen forever. There would still be slavery, and immigrants would have zero rights. Hell, if Nelson Mandela would have been a Jehovah's Witness, this dude would still live in apartheid. This is what Watchtower does to young people. They strip them of their personal autonomy and destroy any positive impact they might have in the world. And the fact that they show South Africa, a country that's still rife with inequality, to conduct these interviews is especially insulting. Jehovah's Witnesses are quick to demonize the work of social activists. Oh, but they're more than happy to reap the benefits of their labor. This is hypocrisy at the highest level.
They have never succeeded in the past. They have never succeeded in the past.
They have never succeeded in the past.
How are you conquering injustice today?
I don't feel like I'm a bystander anymore, or that I'm not involved. Instead of feeling like exhausted and there's no change, I get to help people, giving people a hope for the future that comes from the Bible.
Oh, instead of going out and contributing to real change in the world, I spread paradise fantasies that can't be verified. And this artwork really sucks. It looks so cheap.
Now I don't focus much on news about how people are treated, the injustice. But as a volunteer who preaches full-time, I help people to know Jehovah, know the truth, and know what Jehovah has in store for them in the future.
There you have it, boys and girls. This is what happens when you leave things in Jehovah's hands. Absolutely nothing. Just a lot of wasted potential. I hope these young ones are able to wake up one day so they can be the change they want to see in the world.
When we see injustice, we want to help. We're not unfeeling robots. We're not unfeeling robots. Like Emma and Alwanda, we use our energy to help people experience lasting comfort. And our music video beautifully sums up many of the points we've considered.
Well, you know what time it is. It's time for a music video.
Jehovah God, a weight I bear.
Actually, do you guys want to go for an ice cream instead? I think we've had enough propaganda for today, haven't we? I'ma spoil the music video for you. Dad abandons his family, and the spiritual widow and spiritual orphan are taken in by the congregation and are smiling by the end. Jehovah loves disadvantaged ones. Don't participate in politics, and don't forget to donate to jw.org. Listen, obey, and be blessed.
From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW.
So guys, let me know what you thought of this program in the comments below, and let me know the exact moment you lost the cringe challenge, because I love reading your comments. If you would like to support my work, please head on over to Patreon or become a channel member. It's only $1 a month, and you gain early access to all my videos. As always, thank you so much for your support. Take it easy, have a wonderful day, and stay away from the tower.
Bah. Goodbye, little sheep.